everyone. This is Lily,
This is Vidia,
and welcome to Girls
Grace,
and
and
Giggles.
Giggles. All right, welcome guys to episode 12.
Woohoo!
And in today's episode, we're diving into a topic that I think it's not talked about as much, but very
But
important.
relatable.
It's about failures and mistakes, because let's face it, none of us get it right all the time.
Yep.
And they are part of our story. They shape who we are today. So we're getting personal today.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like throughout the episodes we've been more and more like peeling back an onion, right? Like more and more personal as the episodes progress. But I think it's a good thing because I think that in a way it allows us to be more introspective and also to reflect on our past and
learn from each
experiences.
other.
Mhm.
And I feel like failures and mistakes, yes, they suck, but you get so much out of it as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not like, oh, like you mess it up like big time. Sometimes it's just things that could have been dealt differently, or things that you probably wish you could change, and just things like that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, we all live and learn. So it's
and a
part
lot of it is very nuanced as well. It's not very straightforward. So
sometimes there isn't a clear answer
exactly,
or a clear right or wrong. It's just kind of like you make one decision and then in retrospect you're like, oh, maybe things would have been different if I made another, but it's too late. Like you can't go back to the same point in time.
So a lot of this I think would be like reflection as well, as you mentioned. So
sure, let's get into it.
Why don't we start with academic failures or mistakes?
Yes. Okay. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
It's like tell
I
me.
feel like you have stuff to tell.
Wow.
When I mentioned like academic failures.
That's so funny. Okay. I do have some things to share. So I think that perhaps it's just because we're Asian that academics has always been something that is emphasized, perhaps overly emphasized in our upbringing or culture, just kind of simply because it is something that is, of course, like on the surface it is a good thing. We should be educated, we should be well informed, we should love to learn and grow by learning. But because of the way that things are set up in society, especially in Asian countries,
the pressure
the pressure is so overwhelming that it can be like crushing, right? I think I'm fortunate and like that I didn't grow up in that kind of environment, because my parents and I immigrated to Canada fairly young. But at the same time, I think just by being Asian or just by the background that we have, academics was nevertheless like very strongly emphasized in my upbringing. And so I think it was grade 4 that it was the first time in school that we got letter grades. And that was like a big deal.
And so what did you have before that?
It was just like a scale, like adequate, like not meet expectation, exceed expectation, like that kind of metric. So it wasn't like ABCD. So grade 4 was the first time that I got like a letter grade. And for language arts I got a C. And I got
what a disgrace.
Like literally, like basically it was like shame on you, shame on your ancestors, shame on your cow, like whatever.
This letter C.
It was like devastating because I don't even know, like at the time, I don't know, grade 4 I think you're 9 or something, 8 or 9, I can't remember. But I was really shocked in receiving this grade because I did well in the other areas. But my shock was nothing compared to my parents' shock. Let's just be honest. Because they were very like surprised that I could get such a, in their eyes, like such a bad mark, because I like to read a lot when I was a kid, and my dad would always like force me to like write essays and stuff because he really wanted me to be good in writing, which I think it has paid off. But
yeah, it has.
but like, so it was just a really big shock to them that I would get such a bad mark in language arts, to the point where like they literally like contacted the teacher and was like, what is the metric by which you assess this?
This couldn't have been true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they were just like in disbelief. And then I was also like quite shocked as well, because I was like, oh, I don't get it. And I think I just like told them, like, I think the teacher doesn't really like me because my other friends, who I think were like comparable to me in terms of like, I don't know, language arts skills, got much better grades. And I was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get why she kind of singled me out and whatever. And so like my parents like would force me to do those like workbooks, you know, like the exercise books, like you would buy in those, I don't know, these like educational stores that would like train you on like grammar and syntax or like whatever. And then I would just like do them. I think I would do them fairly like easily. And then they would like sign me up for like summer school classes for like
Wow.
creative writing. Like my parents were just like, this is just like
Yeah,
unacceptable.
yeah. So they were laser focused on helping you improve on this in this
Yeah, because
subject.
it was just like a very
Yeah.
like shameful thing. I think like
Yeah.
a very disgraceful thing, that they were like, how can this be? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm doing
Yeah, yeah.
everything.
Because even you were shocked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
right.
really surprised too.
Yeah.
And of course, I like wanted to improve as well, but I think that there was just a lot of tension in the house due to this situation. And so eventually, like, yeah, my parents did see the teacher, and then because I think I did well in the summer classes and stuff, so then they were also a bit like confused as to why I did not score well like at school. And then so they like met with the teacher, and then the teacher like was kind of scared to meet my parents, I think. And then ended up like bringing the principal in, and it was like me, my parents, the teacher, and the principal
Wow.
like all meeting together. And my parents were like, oh, okay, like we just want to better understand like what was used to assess her like her score, like why did she get a C and whatever. And then like the teacher just did not give any concrete answer. Like there was no metric by which she assessed. It was just like,
Oh.
honestly, I feel like she just looked at me and was like,
It was personal.
the vibe.
Oh,
Like maybe she
wow.
didn't like me or something. I don't know. But yeah, to this day I still don't know either. And and I remember in grade 4, like we got like a provincial wide assessment or something, like one of those provincial exams for education or whatever, like, and that was assessed by like for everybody. And I think, and of course definitely writing was a component of that, including like reading and stuff. And I think I did well in that one. So then like all the more like my parents were kind of like, okay, this is kind of sus,
Yeah.
right? And then basically the principal, so then at that meeting the principal was just like, oh, you know, like sometimes it takes people like 7 years to master a language. And my parents were like,
We've been here more than 7
yeah,
years.
like she was here since like basically kindergarten. Like, what are you insinuating?
Yeah.
Like that her English is not good enough to get a higher mark? Like, so then I think they were pretty upset by how they, you know, they treated the situation. And then I was kind of like scarred.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was. And then eventually like we moved, not for that reason, but
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like we ended up moving, and then I went to a new school. And like I had a really good teacher, and then like I made some really good friends. And then yeah, it was then that like my grades just like improved a lot.
Yeah.
And then so afterwards my parents were like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe it was just the teacher's problem.
So did that
And not
incident
you.
like make you just very, I don't know, concerned and more like focused on how you do on language and arts?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Very bluntly, yes.
I see.
Yeah, I think it kind of made me like upset and angry that I feel like that teacher was kind of maybe just like out to get me in a way, or I don't know what I did
Yeah.
to make her feel like she didn't like me or something. But yeah,
But yeah, that's
it
really shocking
was,
because you're such a
yeah.
great writer and editor.
Oh,
And
thanks. Well, I don't know. Now it's just like, now I feel like what can I actually do well? I'm like, maybe the only thing I can do well is writing. I'm not good at like science or math or any of the STEM stuff. So I definitely was always leaning towards like social sciences and like the arts more. So yeah, so it was kind of like a very shocking
Yeah.
thing. But I think I grew from that experience, and then afterwards I think my grades were okay. Like enough to just get my parents off my back.
And
And
that's actually good enough.
yeah, and like just I think I did well enough.
Yeah.
And so it was fine. But I think through that incident I was really like, yeah, it really showed me how like, oh, this, mistakes or whatever else, sometimes it's not like necessarily your fault, like you just in that right, like wrong place, quote unquote. Or maybe it could just be like many other factors that influence the outcome of a certain situation. But at the same time, it doesn't erase your efforts. Like you should also still try your best to improve and like do what you can to make the situation better. But like also I think sometimes the outcome is not really, like your effort is not the only determining factor of the outcome.
Yeah.
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 So sometimes, like, all to say, like you can try hard, but like also don't put too much pressure on yourself to get a certain, like, to ascribe your value to the outcome or success of that endeavor, right? um
I also feel like it's because you probably had good grades for other subjects and this
mm,
one bad grade,
mm,
just this one bad sub, like bad apple,
yeah,
it
yeah,
kind of just like defined the whole thing.
yeah,
Even
I think
though,
so.
yeah, even though you did well on other subjects,
Yeah,
but
it was just really unacceptable. They were like, okay, maybe I can let a B slide, but a C is definitely like,
unacceptable.
yeah, like legit, like
Yeah.
unacceptable, like disgrace, disgrace on your, like, yeah, it was not a good year.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you have other things in a good condition and then you have one bad thing,
Mm,
it sucks that, if it kind of just like, I don't know, defines the whole thing.
yeah. Oh, and to add insult to injury, so in like elementary school, at least when I was growing up, we had 3 semesters, so 3 chances of like report cards. So
Hmm.
there's like one, and then like the two are kind of like interim ones, and then the final one you get at the end of the year is like the like you're locked in, like that's the final grade.
Mm.
And so like throughout the whole year, I was trying, quote unquote, trying to like improve, and like, my parents were sending me to these classes, and just like really kind of very intentional about focusing on my language arts and stuff. But then like each time the report card came, I like kept on getting a C. So it was like each time was just like, yo, like what is happening, why is this still not improving? And so when you
Yeah.
like don't see the improvement, it's even more like insulting or
Yeah.
like hurtful, because you're like, I'm trying really hard, like why is nothing changing?
Hmm.
But sometimes it's like, it's, I don't know, sometimes it's a tough lesson, right? Like it's not necessarily you, or
There's a lot of other
yeah, there are
factors in
other
play.
factors at play.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm glad that in the end, like, we moved to a different place and I got a new teacher, and she yeah, and then I was able to get like very good grades for language arts, and so yeah, that kind of settled that situation.
Hmm. Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
my academic mistake, I think, is, one of those things that I just feel like, oh, maybe I could have chosen a different paths. So
Mm,
it's not necessarily a mistake, but so I studied English literature in
mm,
undergrad,
yeah.
and I didn't and still don't want to be like a literature expert or a
Mm,
professor or a teacher. And I
mm,
just feel like it wasn't something that I should take because it
mm,
didn't like open a lot of doors in
mm,
my careers. It was very limiting that I
right.
decided to, go to grad school and take a different major. So
Mm,
if I could do college or undergrad all over again,
mm.
I would choose a different major.
What would you choose?
Either maybe like journalism or broadcasting, which I wanted to do, but I
Oh.
just I couldn't get in because I didn't
Oh.
like choose a lot of universities. So the chance to get into one of those universities was low.
Right.
Or nutrition.
Oh,
Very different.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Unexpected.
yeah. But I've always been kind of interested in nutrition, and I
Mm.
think it's like useful for everybody. I
Yeah.
mean, the career path is a different story, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, at
Wow.
least those two things I can see that I can be very passionate about. So
Wow. I didn't know you were studying English lit.
oh, you did? Okay.
No, I didn't. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool. So then you
maybe
read
that
a lot
didn't
of the
show.
classics and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
which to be honest, I
Ooh.
didn't really enjoy. I
Oh,
just did it
what?
because it was, what I had to do
Then
to
why did you choose it to begin with?
because I was good at English and I thought, okay, then I probably can do this. And also because
Oh.
I was in it was I wasn't interested in a lot of other things. It was either like
Mm.
journalism or English.
But you didn't
Um
want to like be a teacher,
nope.
like English teacher or
Nope.
something? Okay.
Nope. Yeah,
Oh.
I didn't and don't want to be a writer. So
Wow. Interesting.
yeah, I shouldn't have taken that route, but that was the
Mm.
path, a popular path, and
Right.
there were a lot of universities that had that option as well.
Oh.
So yeah,
Were there other options available for you at the time? Like, did you apply for different majors?
yeah. So I studied my undergrad in Taiwan, and
Yeah.
we had to put like a list of choices,
Yeah.
university choices,
Yeah.
and my choices were limited to public universities because it was more
Oh,
affordable.
right.
And a lot of sorry, there were only few public university that had broadcast or journalism majors. If I wanted to
Oh.
go to journalism, I would have to go to private universities, which costs like maybe double.
Oh. Okay.
Yes, and it was expensive, so it wasn't really in the realm of my possibility. So
Right.
yeah, that kind of limited what I could do.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't look into nutrition at that time,
That would have been
unfortunately.
kind of cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
So
Well, I mean, look on the bright side. Like for broadcasting and whatnot, like you're doing that right now. You have a
that is
podcast.
true. Yes,
And
yes,
like journalism, like you have to write stuff and you don't want to write. So, like,
that's true.
and besides, real journalism is basically dead at this point. So I don't know.
Yeah, I have to say, being a journalist is a tough
Yeah, I don't think I would. Yeah,
job. So
that's interesting.
yeah, but
Wow.
like there are days when I still look back and I'm like, yeah, I should have taken a
Huh.
different major because I don't want to
Mm,
say I didn't learn anything in undergrad, but
mm,
it's not something that is
yeah.
very practical.
It's okay. I don't think I learned much in undergrad either.
Yes, you
So,
did.
not really.
No, I'm sure it
To
gave
be
you like
honest.
foundation in.
Yeah, but I think the path that I end up going on is completely
I
different too.
see.
So it's not really as if the undergrad, had much weight in terms of like real world practice. But
Hmm.
well, I think for you, like, did you always know you wanted to study abroad? Like, you didn't want to study in Indonesia for
Um,
university?
Great question. I don't know, but I think my parents kind of
Wanted you to
wanted,
go?
yeah, me to go abroad, which I didn't mind at all.
Right.
Um,
And so why Taiwan then?
it was between Taiwan or China,
Uh-huh.
because English speaking countries are very expensive. We just can't
Oh,
afford it.
okay, fair.
And then there were more opportunities in Taiwan in terms of scholarships, doing part time
Oh,
jobs.
okay.
So yeah, the decision was
Okay.
kind of made that way.
So,
It was
but you
easy.
didn't consider like Hong Kong or Malaysia or something like that?
No, because we want a place where we can speak Chinese.
Okay.
Yeah, because
There are people who speak Chinese in Malaysia
but
and Hong
not
Kong.
in like your daily life.
Yeah. Malaysia is very
Yeah,
multicultural.
yeah, but we want to be very immersed.
Very immersed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Was it just a concern of like culture or
Also
was
because
it
my
just
teacher who helped me get admitted into university was Taiwanese, so it was easy that
Oh,
way.
gotcha,
So
gotcha.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And then but you're the first of your family to study
No,
abroad.
no, my
No?
older sister also
Oh.
studied abroad. She went to China. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that's
Okay. Where did she go?
Beijing. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, fancy. But she wanted to come back to Indonesia. Like she didn't want to stay there
No, she
after.
stayed there for quite a few
Oh.
years. Yeah, yeah. Wow,
Oh.
you're learning so
Wow.
much about my life.
Honestly,
Like,
I honestly had no idea.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool. That's
So,
cool. Wow. So then, wow, if you went into nutrition, do you think you would have stayed in Taiwan as well, or would you have?
Oh, I don't know.
No. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no idea.
I
But
guess we'll never know.
yeah, yeah, but it would be a different career path,
Yeah.
completely different
Yeah.
career
Truly.
path. Which, to be honest, I don't know if I would do well, like in terms of
Mm,
my career, if I went into nutrition, because
mm,
it's not it's a niche
mm.
area.
But now it's gaining traction. It's getting more popular, I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like.
And now there's like a lot more ways to go about it. Like you can be a
Mm-mm.
content creator and you focus on like nutrition.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, whereas,
Or you work in a hospital and like you're a dietitian,
yeah,
or you're
exactly.
like a dietitian for like rich people, or you go into like physio and like
Yep.
training and like for athletes, or like there's many different avenues of why someone would need a, nutritionist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
see, it's a very
Mm.
interesting
I mean, it's not
career.
too late.
Not gonna lie, I've looked into like a diploma in
Oh,
nutrition as well, but
okay.
yeah,
That's
it
kind of cool.
it takes quite a bit of commitment, like in terms of
Mm,
time, energy, and money. But
yeah.
yeah.
But I think the path you're on now is still pretty good. Like sometimes I think I wondered, like I visited the universities in like Vancouver. Like this is after I graduated from uni in Ottawa, and I was like, oh, like what would have my life looked like if I stayed here and gone to uni?
Mm.
Because at the time, I think I was very adamant about leaving Vancouver because I'm like, I'm out of
I'm
here.
out of here.
Like honestly, I'm like, I'm not coming back here. And lo and behold, yeah, shouldn't say things. Never say never.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of like, oh, what would my life look like? How would I have?
The what ifs and the could have
Yeah,
beens.
yeah. But I don't think that's necessarily a mistake or a failure. It's more
Mm.
just like, oh, like a different scenario, like
Yeah.
a another possibility, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, why don't we segue into career then? Like life after school.
Mm,
Any career mistakes or
yeah.
mess ups that you can
Yeah.
share
I'm like,
here?
let me count. So I think both of us have been in the workforce for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with time comes experience, but in order to gain experience, you need to have, of course, made some mistakes along the way.
Yeah, grow from them.
Yeah, yeah. So they're all part of the,
Journey
yeah,
and
the
yeah.
process for sure. One I can think of very clearly, it was really stupid, but I was new at a job, and I still didn't really learn the difference between being helpful and also like giving too much information that
Mm.
was not like that was not necessary. So we had a potential client call us about this particular program that we were offering, and it was new for us to like be offering this program. And then he seemed very interested, and I kind of naively was like, oh yeah, yeah, and I just went on at length about what the program was, how he can qualify, and then he was like, okay, cool, like what documents do I need to prepare for this program? And I was like, oh yeah, like why don't I just send you a list of the things that you need?
Mm-hmm.
um and I did not know, but like the list was proprietary of our office, so like
Mm-hmm.
we created that list, and he was not even our client yet. So it was just like this random man who just called, and I was spewing out all this information that was clearly intended only for clients of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And so afterwards, my boss, very kindly but firmly, was like, Lily, we have a very clear protocol about this, and you should not have given out this document. And
Da da da
I
dum.
felt like such an idiot, because I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like we literally, there was like a play by play of like what to do in every single scenario. Like what is the pathway of, like meeting the potential prospect client and like securing them, signing them, and then giving them the documents. So it
Mm.
was like very clear laid out protocol, which I just like did not follow, and it could have been really bad because
Yeah.
number one, like this is just a random person calling. He could have been anybody. He could have been a prospective client,
Oh, okay.
or he
Yeah.
could have been a
Yeah,
competitor.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then for me then to just, I haven't even met him, I haven't even seen him on Zoom, I just, by the sound of his voice, and I'm just giving out this like proprietary information, was very foolish of me. And fortunately, in the end, it has a good
It
resolution
is a
because
legitimate
he
person.
was, in fact, a legitimate person who was interested in the program, and he did sign on in the end, thank God. And he he signed on with us and actually became our client. But this could have ended in many other
Yeah,
ways, and then
in a bad way.
yeah, it could have been pretty bad. And so it was something that I remembered very clearly moving forward, so I never made that
And
mistake
this was
again.
early in your
Yeah, it's like early in
position?
my
Okay.
position, early in my career. We just launched that program. So yeah, it was I mean, there was room for error, and my boss was not like really upset. He was just like, "Hey, this is, you should know better," kind of thing. It was kind of like a slap on the wrist. But nothing too heavy. But yeah, I was certainly very embarrassed and also just yeah, never made that mistake again. And so later on when I just hired like one of the people in our office, he made a similar mistake.
Oh,
And so I also had the same conversation with him
right.
because there was a prospect client calling asking about the program, and he didn't like email the list of like the document list to him, but he did like just on the phone tell him exactly what the he like read aloud what the document list contained. And then so after the phone call I was like, hey, we don't do that. And then I just kind of had the same conversation with him as my boss had previously had with me. And yeah, and then of course he never made that mistake again either. But it was just definitely a learning moment, and one of those things where you look back and you're like, oh, that was silly.
Yeah.
It was. And I feel like when these things happen, there's like a small voice that's kind of like, maybe you shouldn't do that. and
Oh.
then and then you kind of just dismiss it. Like I had like a
Oh,
flash
wow.
of
An
something like,
inkling.
yeah, of like, oh, is this like proper? But I was like, oh well, he seems very eager
Right,
and
right, right. Oh my
like really
gosh.
wants to. And I think I was just out of my willingness to be helpful. I was like, oh yeah, like let me
Let me
help
help
you.
you.
Yeah, yeah. And so
I
yeah,
wonder
that's
if
not
that
the
list
right approach.
actually, amongst other things, like helped him decide to go with you guys. Because then he
Maybe.
thought,
I think I
oh,
was
this is
very
a very
helpful.
helpful person. And
Yeah, I was, and he was my first signed client.
oh,
So
wow.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
for that program. So I remember him
Unforgettable.
very, yeah, I remember him very clearly and fondly. And he did get approved in the end, so that was even better. But yeah, it was just that I, I think it was a learning moment.
I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, my career mistake slash failure did not have a happy ending like yours.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was working for a startup. This was
Mm,
only like my second job out of college. So
fresh.
yeah, within my first year of
Sweet
graduating.
summer
So
child.
exactly, still super, super new to the society.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm,
I think I was like an eager employee, like tried to
mm,
do my best to do what I could, but
mm,
maybe like 7 months, 8 months into the job,
mm.
I realized my boss kind of hired someone else, or actually their brother, his or her brother, to kind of take over
What?
the things that I
Take
did.
over your job?
Yeah, yeah,
Then what do you do?
without even telling me. Yeah, that's why I was like, I thought I was supposed to do that, but no, he had someone else to do
He
what I was
basically
supposed to
replaced
do.
you?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that whole
Why?
thing started without them telling me, and then one day they just, like sat me down and just said, you know what, I think you're not a
A good
great
fit?
fit
Ugh.
for this type of job or this kind of task, and yeah, we have our brother take care of this
What?
thing
But
instead.
what did you do that they didn't like?
um I actually don't remember. but I remember just feeling that it was such an unfair thing to be done to
Yeah.
me, because I had no idea. Like, we
Yeah, they
had
should have given you some like warning or
feedback.
something.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, we had these like 8 months of working together, and you could have told me things that you were not happy about, or things that I could have improved on,
Yeah.
and
And
instead
so
you
they didn't
just
tell you anything.
I'm pretty sure they did when they sat me down, but that was already like
But
after
that's
the
after
fact.
they made the
Exactly,
decision.
exactly. So they were like, okay,
What?
but we know you're a good employee. We know you're hardworking, so we want to keep you in this company. We want you to
Oh, okay.
stay with us, but we're just gonna modify your role. I think they were they were changing my job to be like an HR kind of position, if I remember.
Okay.
So something that is
So what
quite
were you doing
completely
before?
different.
Comms?
Yeah, like
Oh,
marketing,
okay.
social media stuff.
Mm.
Um, and I was like, okay, very shocked. Again, still very, very
Wow.
new in the workforce.
Yeah.
Feeling very hurt as well, but
Yeah.
I didn't voice
Are
it.
they like allowed to do that? Just unilaterally change your
Yeah,
position?
they're the boss.
Yeah, but
Um,
I feel like this is some sort of violation of some sort of like
nah, we don't have
employment
any of
law
we
or
didn't have any
whatever.
of that. so
What?
so yeah, they did that, and I just felt yeah, it was very unfair. I was
Of
not
course,
happy, but
yeah.
I did stay because I thought, I mean, I didn't have any other job, and
Right.
just thought, okay, let's see what we can do next.
Right.
Maybe I'll like it or not.
So in the new department, were you working under the same boss
Yeah,
or
yeah,
no?
this this
Oh.
this was a startup, so it was only, I don't know, a team of 8 or 7. It was a very
Okay,
small
okay.
company. But yeah, I didn't stay long after that. I think a
Yeah.
month after that happened, I resigned, and it was, for a lot of different reasons. I
Right.
mean, the fact that they did that was like the main reason, but there were
Yeah.
other like,
I feel like that's really disrespectful. Like they didn't even
thank you.
bother to tell you
Yeah.
like the feedback before
Yeah.
they
So
changed
I
your
felt
role.
quite ashamed of myself because
Oh.
it felt like I was being let go.
Hmm.
Um from that position, at least not like
Yeah.
from the company.
Right.
But I still felt that I failed for
Mm.
doing the previous roles
Right.
or tasks that I was assigned to.
Oh.
But you know what, like I learned one thing now, or
Mm.
since that
Yeah.
experience, to seek feedback
Yeah.
proactively.
Yeah. Good for
Because I
you.
did not do that in the
Right.
job. I feel like I
Right.
assumed that they would tell me like if they were
Mm.
unhappy, because we had
Mm.
meetings, like weekly meetings or monthly
Yeah.
meetings, periodical meetings to talk about things that we worked on. And
Okay.
I've never felt that they were not happy with my work or my
Oh.
performance. So I was just so taken aback. It's
Wow.
just like so out of
Maybe
the
it's just
blue.
the brother needed a job and then they just you needed
I
to
I
you were like the scapegoat, you
I
know?
have no
Sometimes it's
idea.
like that. Like
Yeah.
it's not really
Yeah.
like again, maybe it's similar to my like grade 4 situation. Like you try, but sometimes the outcome is not determined by you. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily because of you, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I think
these
that's a
things
great
sometimes
point
happen.
and a great
Yeah.
lesson, that maybe sometimes it's you, but it's not just you. There's like other
Yeah.
factors
Yeah.
that contributed to,
Yeah.
that failure
Yeah.
or mistake or whatever.
But
So,
for what it's worth, though, I think they did see your value because they did, say that you were a good worker and try
yeah.
to like change you to a different department. Although, the way they went about it was very,
Hmm.
immature, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like speaking as someone who has let somebody go
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
it's really hard. Like I think, and it's also like I think seeking feedback is really critical.
Hmm.
Like being proactive as an employee to seek out ways that you can improve or
Hmm.
think outside the box or always kind of put yourself in the shoes of like the person you're trying to assist to be like, "Oh, how can I make this easier for them or how can I make this better for them?" And
Hmm.
so and it can come down to like very small things. Like for example, if you're assigned to like review 5 things and then have a summary of those 5 things, um maybe instead of like replying back with just like the attachment of your findings, like you also attach the 5 other things that you were tasked to review, and then like write in your email like the summary of your conclusion right up front, and then you can say
Mm.
like, oh, here are like more detailed findings than the attach, or like the way that if you're like the boss, you see it and you're like, oh, I don't even need to like read the in-depth thing, but I have
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
there available, or like just some other ways where you can minimize your like the work of the other person receiving your work,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think is always like a good rule of thumb. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I learned to do that after that
Mm,
experience, just feeling like, oh, I
yeah.
need to put myself in my supervisor's
Mm,
shoes
yeah.
to know what they are looking for, and
Yeah.
for me
Yeah.
to like work towards that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And always ask if they
Yeah.
have any feedback, just like
Yeah.
providing that space.
Yeah.
Because if
That's really important, I
yeah, because
think.
if I have asked and you you don't give me any feedback, then that's on you. It's not on
Yeah.
me anymore.
Totally agree. I totally agree. And I feel like there are very few people who intentionally ask for feedback. So
Oh.
like if you are like one of the few that do, then you will be very memorable to be like, oh, like, and it's not even like in a bad way. Like you can take criticism, you can take advice. Like
Yeah.
it shows that you're open and you're humble and you're like
Mhm.
willing to learn and you're also proactive. So like
Yeah.
who wouldn't want such a open, humble, proactive
Yeah.
employee,
And
right?
after that
So
experience, even though I didn't officially got let go, I feel like I can empathize with people who get let go, because
mm.
it is not a great feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You do feel like a failure.
Well, perhaps in some way it's like you've been rejected, and that's
Yeah.
never a good
And
feeling.
unwanted.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
But
oh,
I've
it's
moved,
okay.
I've learned a
Yeah,
lot from
the
that.
next one is better.
Yes,
The
yes.
next one will be better.
Yeah, but eventually I quit, even
Mm,
though I didn't have a next job lined up.
right,
I just thought, it was not a great working environment. It
right,
was a
right.
little toxic,
Mm,
not respectful of, the employees'
mm, yeah,
rights and
right.
needs. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from what you told me, I'm like, yeah, that seems like the case.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you like, got the good lessons out of it,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then yeah.
I think that's what matters though, like with
Mm,
mistakes and failures.
yeah.
What can you learn and how can you grow from them? So
Mm,
yeah.
yeah. That's good.
Right.
Hmm.
Moving on. What
Sure.
about friendship slash relationship?
Hmm.
Anything
Well, I've
you
been
can
going
share?
first all this time. You say something.
Oh, okay. All right. I can share like a
mm,
friendship mistake.
mm.
Again, I've learned from that experience as well. So I have this friend. We were friends since kindergarten.
Wow.
Yeah, because we went to the same school from kindergarten all the way to high school.
Mm,
We were good friends. We shared a lot of like interests and
mm,
hobbies. And then we went to university together, not the same university, but the same like city.
mm,
Um, but I think as I got older, I just realized we had different values.
mm.
Also, one of the things that was quite we had different lifestyles.
Uh,
I think, when we hung out as friends, like we would go out to malls and,
mm,
we would have to spend money because we were not just like hanging out at malls. Like we would go out and
mm.
eat, we would,
Right.
buy stuff. I couldn't really afford that all the time. And so I
Mm.
started kind of,
Distancing?
yeah, or just like not going out with her. Not
Mm-mm-mm.
because I didn't want to go out with her, because
Just declining
yeah,
her
because I didn't
invites.
have any money.
Right.
But I never really voiced that out. I
Mm,
just said, sorry, I can't go. I
mm,
think I felt ashamed to say that
mm,
I just can't afford it.
mm.
So it was really not about her. Like I
Right.
liked her as a friend. Um,
But were there other activities that you could do that didn't
yeah,
cost money?
probably not
Mm.
not in
Was this
Jakarta at
in
the time.
Indonesia?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you guys really love your malls. People just go to malls
Because where
like
else can
all
we
the
go?
time. Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then as I got older, I also felt like there are different values
Mm,
between us two.
yeah.
She is not a Christian.
Mm.
Not to say that I can't be friends with Christians, but
I mean, with non-Christians.
sorry, yeah, sorry. Whoops. Yeah, not to say that I can be friends with Christians, but I
With
don't know.
non-Christians.
Sorry. I did it again. You understand what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe because I was growing up, so I was still like
Yeah, yeah.
figuring things out as well. So
Yeah,
when we
yeah,
have different values, sometimes I just don't know how to handle
yeah,
those things.
yeah.
So yeah, I started not hanging out with her as much.
Mm,
And she was still eager to like hang out with me. And again, I think my issue was that I wasn't communicative
mm,
um
mm.
enough. And then one day she confronted me about,
Oh,
yeah, about me being not reciprocating,
yeah.
her eagerness in our friendship.
Wow.
And that was really shocking to me,
Yeah,
because I'm like, oh my gosh, how to handle this. I
yeah.
First confrontation
Ooh,
ever in my life.
wow.
But she was
So was
not.
she very direct? Like, hey, I feel like you're not hanging out with me anymore.
Yeah, yeah, she felt like
Okay.
she was the eager one, and
was not.
No, yeah.
Mm,
And she was not wrong, if I'm
mm, mm,
honest.
mm, mm.
And I felt really bad.
Right.
I felt bad for I didn't feel bad for not reciprocating. I just felt bad that I should have been more
Open
open
about
and
it.
honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the time, I just really didn't know like how to handle it. I just
Right.
didn't know the importance of communicating
Yeah.
um,
So
these.
what did you say when she confronted you?
I think I just said sorry. I
Huh?
think,
That's it?
yeah. And yo, my memory is so blurry these days.
Okay.
I think
So
I
what
just said
happened?
sorry, but I don't think I've voiced out all the reasons about,
Right.
yeah, I just couldn't afford like
Hanging
going
out all
out
the time. Yeah,
all the
yeah, yeah.
time, and the different values. I also didn't share that, but I think I just apologized for like hurting
Mm,
her. um
right. So then what happened afterwards? Were you guys still like friends, or did
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of okay?
But I think that changed our friendship.
Mm,
um
right.
yeah. And I don't know, maybe it was good that it happened, so
Mm,
it was clear that, I don't know, maybe it changed her expectation in me as well as a friend.
mm.
um and yeah, since then I think I understood the importance of
Communicating.
communicating,
Yeah.
and be more aware of the other person's feelings.
Mm.
um
Or even just being brave and open with someone, like being vulnerable. I think that's really hard. Like
yeah,
to kind of open up and be like, "Hey, the real reason is because of XYZ or whatever."
yeah,
Like that's really
yeah,
hard.
yeah, that's a great point. Maybe I didn't feel safe enough to
Mm.
be vulnerable,
Mm.
but also just like genuinely didn't know that, oh
Mm.
yeah, I should be open
Right.
about
So
all
do you still
this.
have a relationship with
Yeah,
her,
yeah,
or
yeah,
is it
but
okay?
distant friends.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. And she's
So,
still back in Indonesia?
mhm, mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
so that happened.
Hmm. I feel like there's a common thread of like communication as the lesson learned,
Oh, okay.
right?
Like in
Like,
your
well, I mean, in terms of like seeking the feedback, right?
right
And also just like being more open about your your
feelings.
feelings. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So,
which is not always easy.
yeah, I think that can be really hard.
Yeah, yeah. And
Um
here I am opening myself up to the world.
so good on you. Look at how you've like matured and grown.
Yeah,
It's
thanks
really
thanks to these failures, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I think that this term needs to be reevaluated because I feel like so I think mistakes and failures like failure is something that you like designate or you ascribe to this situation. But
Mm-hmm.
mistake is more objective. Like, oh, you made a mistake about this. But like failure it's like, oh, I have failed in something. Like maybe it's not as dire as we make it out to be,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like a lesson learned, right? It's
Yeah.
not necessarily a failure. I think
Mm-hmm.
it is a failure if you haven't learned anything and you repeat it. Then it's like
Mm-hmm.
then that's yeah, then you should reflect on this. Like my boss used to say like I don't mind mistakes, but I don't
Repeat
accept
mistakes.
repeated
Yeah, yeah,
mistakes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
repeating
Yeah.
that means you didn't learn anything. And then it's like, okay, well then you will have to keep repeating this until you learn
Mm-hmm.
it, until you learn this lesson. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's definitely I think we've all grown and we're all like just on this path together. I feel like for friendships and stuff, I've confronted people about things, but that was like very scary for me.
Wow.
But it was like things that I feel like strengthened our relationship more than anything because the other
Mm-hmm.
person was receptive to it. And so
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
weren't receptive, then it could have gone, in in a very different direction. But I think that like being brave and being vulnerable um is also trusting that the other person will take care of that
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability and
Mm-hmm.
handle it with care, right? Like, but it's like an act of faith because you're like, okay, I'm like putting my heart out for you to like break, but like if you handle it with care, then I will feel um more validated that I did trust you and I trusted you
Mm-hmm.
properly.
And the
Like because
relationship will become stronger.
yeah, because like then now I know even more that you are like a trustworthy person,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it
Mm-hmm.
takes risks and it's not
Yeah. Definitely.
It's not easy, but I think I think we should not fear doing that, because if you don't, then nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like there's no outcome if you don't try, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
What about like a spiritual setback?
Yeah.
Change of word, not a mistake.
Well, this one I think it was a mistake on my part, so because
And God corrected you.
yeah, because setback is like a different, I don't know, I feel like maybe I'm just like very picky with terms, like
Look at your language ability. Take that, Miss or Mister.
It was a woman teacher,
Yeah.
but anyway, that's so funny. So I remember when I finished uni and I relocated back to Vancouver briefly, and then at the time I felt really moved to serve at my old church, which I did by like kind of helping with the youth group. And then I was really convicted to kind of do what like the model that was displayed for my campus fellowship, our campus fellowship, and then kind of to apply that
Yeah.
to the youth in my
Yeah.
church. And I was very eager about this and did a lot of work to try to make that happen. And you know, I think it was receptive, and people did like agree, and we changed the structure, and we had basically a youth-led youth group, and it was, I think it was like a very good effort. However, I think I was really tired and struggling with leading it in some days, because I felt like nobody was very enthusiastic about it, or not as much as I was. And I think I was very distraught at how like little people seem to care. Just based on the way they would, you know, prepare or not prepare for the lessons, or, you know, gather things, or like think about the structure, and like just I felt like I was putting a lot of my time and effort and energy into it, and then like other people were not, and I was like getting frustrated.
And you must have had high expectations for them,
Yeah,
right?
I think because I was just so high off of the experiences,
campus fellowship,
from the campus fellowship, that I was like, oh, like it's gonna be so good, and everyone's gonna be like as on fire for God as I was. That I was like really inspired by those people.
Expectation versus reality.
Honestly, and I was like, oh, if we could just do the same thing here, then everyone would be like so on fire for God. I'm like, yeah, like
let's go.
Yeah, I'm like, don't we all want that? And isn't that like what we're meant to do and what we're called to do? I was just like very much like on my high horse, and and very like eager, let's just say. So I remember this one night I was like praying to God, and I was like really angry. I was actually frustrated because it was after like a Zoom call, or like a whatever online meeting that was very lackluster, or people just didn't really seem to care, or as much as I did, I guess. So I was praying, and I really felt like I felt like Moses when he was like complaining about the Israelites to God in Numbers, where he's like, did I give birth to them? Am I their father? Like, why are these people so whiny and complaining? And it's all like on me, and like da da da, like all these things. And so, I mean, not to compare myself to Moses in any way, like obviously that's not my point, but it kind of, I was like in some microscopic way I could relate to his feelings of frustration toward the Israelites. So anyhow, I was praying, and I was getting so frustrated and so angry. I'm like, God, like they don't even care, and they don't even do this, da, 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 like, and I was just like ranting and on and on. And then this is one of the very rare moments where I felt like I did hear God speak. And this very rarely happens. And I just heard him very clearly say, like, you know, when you were their age, you weren't as good as they are now.
Mic drop moment.
Yeah. Oh, and I was like, ouch, burn. Like, actually, he was like, when you were their age, you weren't nearly as good as they are now.
Ouch.
And it was just like such a, like, it just felt like I got splashed with some cold water.
Let me put you in your place, girl.
Yeah, honestly. And it was so humbling. And I was like, wow, you're right. Like when I was in high school, I was not serving. I was not like leading you know, Bible study or whatever. Like
Mm.
and it's only been like 4 years since since I, you know, graduated high school at that time. And so I was like, wow, like isn't that a humbling moment? And then I heard God say like, but I didn't give up on you and neither will I on
Mm.
them. And it was just such
Yeah.
a revolutionary moment where I was like, wow, like that's true. Like we're so eager and sometimes God is not. And like thank God he isn't. And like because we
Mm.
need time. People take time and he is patient and thank God for that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like and so since that moment, I think I changed the way my attitude was. So before, perhaps on the outside, all the lessons and things and whatever like remained the same, but my inside, my internal monologue was completely different. Like
Mm-hmm.
instead of feeling like I had to drag them along to where I was going, like I was instead just like walking with them where they
Mm-hmm.
were. And instead of just wanting them to match my pace,
Yeah.
I slowed down to
And
match their
it was
pace.
like the burden is no longer yours. You were just
Yes,
like following God's
a
timeline,
hundred
and
percent.
it was not on you anymore.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly it. Because I think I had it in my head that if I didn't do this well, like I would be disappointing him in some way. Like I needed to do something, and I wanted to do it well. And I was like, if I want to do it well, and I think everyone else should want to do it well, but like no one, why is no one like, you know, as on fire as me? And so I felt like, oh, if we're all like, then we're not going to meet the level that I had in my head, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was not the way to go about it, because I don't think that that's what God expected of us or wanted
Mm-hmm.
from us. Like he sees your heart and he sees your desire, and like if you are faithful to that, like he will be faithful. And so like to each whatever is given,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a good steward of that, then you're faithful, right? You're a
Yeah.
good servant.
And that's
So
all that we're asked from. Yeah.
exactly. And so I think it was a really humbling lesson. He really had to like knock me down and to build me up and stuff. But I really felt like, oh yeah, like what am I doing? Like it's not on me, like you said, it's not on me to you know, like have their spiritual
Mm-hmm.
burden on me. But I mean, now looking back, I still keep in touch with those that I've like helped
Mm.
lead, and they're all now like in leadership positions at church and all
Wow.
have, you know, a relationship with God. And I just
Yeah.
feel like, wow, you know, God is so true. Like he really didn't like give up on them.
Yeah.
And so it's just all in his good timing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good ending.
Yeah, yeah. So with all these mistakes, failures, setbacks, whatever you want to call them, has your view on mistakes and failures changed?
Mm, I think so. I think they've evolved over time. Like, but
Mhm.
it's something that is really key to remember is like just because this thing was a failure doesn't mean that you are. And just
Yeah,
because this was a
it doesn't
mistake doesn't
define your whole self.
exactly. And just
Yeah.
because you made a mistake doesn't negate all the other good things that you've
Yeah,
done
it's not the
either.
end of the world.
It's not. And sometimes
Mhm.
it feels like that, or sometimes other people can make you feel like that. And
Mhm.
I think you have to like give yourself
Grace.
the pep talk to be like, yeah, you know, this thing I did mess up. Like I think you have to be honest with yourself about where you've messed up so you can see clearly.
Mhm.
And then from there to be like, analyze the situation, like where did you go wrong and like where do you think you can improve so that
Mhm.
this thing doesn't happen again. And I think also like give yourself grace, but also give yourself like room to grow, you know?
Mhm.
Um because I think that's what it is at the end of the day. Like mistakes and setbacks and failures are just room for us to grow, because we're all, you know, it's the first time for everybody being human. So it's like we're bound to make
Make
mistakes
mistakes.
along the way. So
Yeah.
there we
And
go.
they're so humbling as well.
Yep.
And I think just like remind you that you are not perfect.
Mm.
And it's hard for me to say that as a perfectionist because
Mm.
I don't give enough grace to myself.
Mm.
And I'm
But
always,
you do for other people. Like
yeah.
you're very forgiving of others
Yeah, I'm mean
and
to
not,
myself
yeah,
basically. I'm not
yeah, yeah.
the biggest supporter of myself, but I think
You're
with
like your biggest critic.
exactly. But I think mistakes and failures teach me that, you know, you really are not perfect, and
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the verse in Corinthians about like
Mm.
us being made perfect in our weakness.
Mm.
And that just really like puts myself in my place
Mm.
to be like, yeah, you can't do everything on your own. And I think it it teaches me not to be intimidated by failures and mistakes as well, because we can learn
Mm.
from them, and it
Yeah.
really makes us as we are now. um and yeah, so, and I guess one thing, I'm quite afraid of like mistakes and failures to the point where it paralyzes me, and
Mm.
it,
You're like immobile. You
yeah,
can't take
and
action.
I can't take action, or I can't just like try out something new, because
Mm.
I need, if I want to do something, it has to be perfect. I don't
Right.
want to be like,
Yeah. You need the
average.
assurance that it's
Yeah,
gonna go
yeah,
well.
because I don't want to fail. But I
Mm.
think that's bad, because
Yeah. It
you,
certainly inhibits you from
exactly,
doing anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to work towards that as well.
Mm.
um
Allowing yourself to step out.
to step out and be
Mm.
okay with mistakes and failures. I mean,
Mm.
obviously, there has to be like educated, like you have to like think
Educated
about, like,
mistakes.
yeah, or like risks.
Mm.
You don't just like go about things without having considered all the risks. But
Mm.
if fear of mistakes is the only thing that stops me, I want to like overcome that. So
Mm. Same.
yeah.
Way to go. We can keep each other accountable on that. Okay.
So
Very good.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's all our failures and mistakes that we can share in this one episode. There
Yeah. There are
are
many more.
definitely a lot more than that, but hopefully you find them relatable
Mm.
and I don't know, inspiring, or maybe you can
Or
learn from them.
helpful, at least in some way, to know that
Yeah.
we're all just trying to work our way through
Mm-hmm.
whatever things we previously experienced. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay. On
thanks
to
for
the next
listening,
one.
guys. Bye.
Bye.